Hello and welcome to episode 61 of the Your Way podcast. I am delighted to be joined by another of my clients and a friend today, the wonderful Kellie Tannahill. I don't know what name I was trying to call you then.
I've been many
Kellie's,
things.
yeah, Kellie. So I've known Kellie for a couple of years. She's just told me before we hit record that we've had our 2-year friend anniversary on Facebook, but I think we've known each other probably a little bit longer than that. Kellie is an amazing human with an incredible story, and I'm really excited to have her on today to share a little bit more about that. So, Kellie, welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell people just a little bit about who you are and what you do so they've got the gist?
So my name is Kellie Tannahill. I am a business coach who has found that she has a hyper fixation on business, but what really gets her results in business is working with the humans behind the business and the challenges that they face. And then they then get the results that they want to seek in their business. And it comes from all the experiences I've been through myself. I have been unwell most of my life. From 2 years old, I had my first operation, and it's just been one thing after another. And it used to be a thing that dragged me down. And then I realized it was a way that I could help others. So now that is what I do.
Amazing. So you pick the start point, whichever one feels good. And can you share a little bit about, I guess, some of the challenges that you had, how you worked with them or didn't work with them, like how you tried to solve them? Um, and I guess how that worked for you. So like if you sort of just take yourself back a little bit to whatever time in the past feels good.
So I was an only child for the first 10 years of my life,
Mhm.
and I lived in the middle of nowhere, and it was a very quiet life, and I was probably very happy with that because we didn't know, but I was incredibly sensitive. So sensitive to what was going on around me, being around people. Um, my sister came along when I was 10, and she's a lovely human being, but it was a big challenge to have another person in my space. And it was never about she got more attention, it was had somebody intruding on what I was used to. And as I grew up, I was known as this moody, sullen person, and I would have objected to a lot, and um, you know, was just deemed as being difficult. Except at school, I was very well behaved at school, never any problems with me at school,
Mm.
did my schoolwork, and everything was fine. Went through education, A levels, went to university and studied something that my parents didn't want me to study. And it was kind of I don't care, this is what I want to do. So
I
I
love it.
um, sports therapy. So it's particularly injuries from moment of injury through to full functional fitness. It's not the same as physiotherapy because I didn't study how to support children and I didn't study how to support elderly. It was about how to support athletes.
Yeah.
And I had had a long sporting career anyway, and that was what I wanted to do. So I went to university and racked up a lot of debt in student loans, as you do, particularly if you're in London as a university. And got my academia, got my proper job, managing a fitness centre in central London. And then I was on a tube one day and there was a one under on the tube, and I caught myself tutting that there was a one under on a tube. And I thought, this is not who I want to be as a human being. Um, so eventually I left where I was and I moved to Northern Ireland where the majority of my family were. And it was a much slower way of life, to the point where when you live in central London, you order a coffee and then 30 seconds later, the coffee is generated for you at the other end. When I moved over here, it was you order a coffee, they want to talk to you, they want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And that wasn't factored into my time scale. So it was much slower pace of life, which I totally needed, but found quite challenging. And I made my way up through the corporate ladder into senior management and got incredibly sick because I carried on doing all of the achieving whilst trying to raise a family, and worked a full-time job and ran a business and ran a family. And yeah, something had to give, and it was myself that gave. So
Yeah, thanks for sharing all of that. So, I mean, basically, some of these questions are just because I'm being nosy now. They're not necessarily that relevant for the podcast listeners. Which sport did you play or do? What was your sport?
so we would have played a lot of netball. We would have played in national competitions, but I was also very good at javelin. And
Right.
there became a point where one weekend I had to choose between competing nationally at javelin or competing nationally at netball. And the underconfident Kelly chose netball because that meant there was a team thing,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it
yeah,
wasn't all
yeah.
on me. But there was one time I was playing for 6 netball teams across
Oh, wow.
all sorts. And I was a coach as well.
Yeah.
My mum was like a coach in the club. I had my own little team of, um, I think they're called like year sevens, so
Right.
all sorts. So sports was heavily involved. But both of my parents are very sporty, even to this day. My mum still plays netball and she's almost 70. My dad's
Wow.
my dad's now playing bowls because he's getting restricted in his abilities, but it's always been a big
Wow.
part of our lives.
So aside, because I'm going to tell you two funny stories now that you'll enjoy. So I played netball at school, but because I was tall and the games teacher was literally like, "You're tall, can you come and play goalkeeper?" And then the following year, and it was really good for me because I did no exercise at school. I was like a music geek, but I was also overweight at school. I didn't do any exercise. And then the start of year 13, so the second year of sixth form, so people who are not in the UK, 17, um, the games teacher came over to me at lunch in front of all of my friends, took one look at me and was like, "Are you going to play netball again this year?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Well, it looks like you need to go on some runs before you go to before you come and play." And I felt so ashamed. I never played again. So that's my netball story. And you're going to love my javelin story because I was not gifted with coordination. So my javelin story is when you so we used to whatever it was called, like, was it like athletics? So like that literally PE at school when you did athletics where you had to like you had your lesson where you did the long jump and the lesson where you did the javelin and all of that. So the javelin lesson, I was so good, and I'm doing quotation marks with my fingers if you're listening to this, at the javelin, that when I went to throw it, somehow honked myself on the back of the head with the javelin. And so then the next time we did javelin, same games teacher, I think, made this big deal of making me use the safety javelin.
Oh, the turbo jabs. Yes.
I don't know, I guess maybe it had like it didn't have a sharp end anyway.
Yes. So I was coached by Steve Backley, the Olympian athlete,
Right.
and I got given a turbo jab by him. And then when I lived in London as a single white female, that was my method of self-defense. If, anybody ever broke into said house, that was, how I was to
Nice.
defend myself.
Brilliant. So the other question is more relevant, but I was just curious. I was like, "Oh, I wonder what sports you did." Um, you talked about being young and being kind of sensitive to other people's energy, and then your sister coming along and it feeling like kind of an intrusion on your space. how did that then kind of manifest later on in your life? How did you learn to work with it? Because I'm very sensitive to energy and I know other people will be as well. So I think it's just interesting to hear your take on it.
Well, it it was about in my personal space, because that in my younger days, I would have been out with friends, partying and night clubbing, and at uni, like I worked in a crazy bar, and
Mm.
we did all sorts, but it was about, what most people would call introversion. So they need a space to wind down and be quiet and regenerate. And that's what I thought it was. And then as I got older, and I had Alex, and when you're a mother, there is no personal space. And I'm not somebody like my friends used to take the mick out of me and try and hug me and all the rest of it. And like I hated it, and they used to think it was funny, but it really was an intrusion of my space. Like people know not to try and hug me or kiss me, or do you know what I mean? That's just I give off this please keep away type thing. But when you have a child, um, it can't be like that. And it came up the other day actually, and Alex was like, "But you're okay with me?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm okay with you, but I can't have other people touching me and things like that." He's like, "Oh, right, okay," because to him, he's just seen me as his mother. But when I went, I've been assessed for autism, and there have been times when my stress levels are high that, and this might sound ridiculous, I can actually hear the grass growing if it's wet. That's
Wow.
how, because where we live, it's incredibly quiet. So if I go outside early in the morning, it's like I can hear it. Or if I'm at my son's school, I can hear the electricity in the walls, that type of, I have hypersensitive hearing. Yet if somebody talks to me, I'll be like, "Sorry, what did you say?" You know, I hear so much going on environmentally
Yeah.
that it can be hard to focus on what is actually being said to me. Um, and then there's the whole not feeling comfortable in the clothing that you're wearing, and that was shown via Alex. I didn't realize that was a problem for me until Alex started refusing to wear certain things. And then I was like, "Oh my goodness, yeah, why am I wearing these things that make me so uncomfortable?" You know, so he showed me that part. But yeah, so it's sensitive in that way, not
Yeah.
somebody is horrible to you and I cry. I'm probably very quite like thick skinned. If somebody is,
Yeah.
being direct or rude, I usually go, "Okay, right, that's feedback."
Yeah, but just kind of you pick up on things in the environment that many people do not pick up on in the environment.
Yes, so smells, sounds,
Yeah.
those types of things. If I walk into a room, I can feel the energy of the people in the room, um, that type of thing. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be out partying or in bars because there's just too much energy around me.
Yeah. And so being aware of that now and having that awareness of that, how do you navigate it day to day? What's your way? Like presumably you've started wearing comfy clothes. Please say yes.
Yes, yes. So I am much more in control of consciously what I wear, and I'm probably conscious about who I'm around, or if I'm in an area where I can't control who I'm around, I make sure I'm fully resourced before I go there. So there are times when you have to go to a shop. I'd really rather not go to a shop. If I could order it to come to me, then fine. But it's about making sure that I'm, you know, have eaten well. I've had a decent amount of sleep, because even the lights in the shopping centres are lighting really affects me. Um, Doctor's surgery lighting, I understand why they need to have really good lights, but it really is quite distracting when you're in there and you're trying to have a conversation and all you can think about is, "Oh my goodness, could I turn that light off, please?" That type of thing.
Yeah. Amazing. So you've kind of found these different ways of navigating it. So if we go forward again now, so you've climbed your corporate ladder, you have a business, you have a child, and then you said, and I got very sick.
Yes. I have had like had an operation on my neck. I had to have an abscess removed, and I had childhood asthma, and then I got thyroid problems, and then I had a bone condition, and then I was diagnosed as a celiac, and I was incredibly ill before I got diagnosed as a celiac. And so I learned to manage all of those. And I think the more you learn to manage, the more you think you can deal with, if you get what I mean. So I look back and go, well, like I figured all that out, you know, and I got this challenge where we had to do a charity day in corporate, and I chose to do litter picking on the beach. So I was using one of those, you know, litter picker pincer things, and it was all fine. And the next day I had an incredibly sore like elbow, wrist, and given my background, I thought, right, it's overuse. I did too much. Rest it, ice it, you know, the standard stuff. 2 weeks later, it was still really, really throbbing. And I was like, right, okay, I need to get this seen. So went to the hospital, they did an x-ray, it wasn't broken. I knew it wasn't broken, there was no trauma, do you know what I mean? They diagnosed it with de Quervain's tenosynovitis. And I was like, okay,
That's a
fine.
fancy word. What does that
Yeah.
mean in English?
It's just like an inflammation of the tendon in a certain
Right.
location, right? And then I kept getting these tendonitis issues in really random places. So feet, knees, hips. And I know a lot of people who have NHS doctors are very frustrated by their service, but the GPs that I have are amazing. And I went to this particular doctor and I said, listen, this is what is going on. I really don't understand it. She looked at me and she went, I don't understand this either. She went, I don't do this normally, but she went to go to Google and she was like, no. She said, I think I need to refer you to rheumatology. I'm really sorry. It's a 4-year waiting list. And there were times when I couldn't walk that this was causing such of a problem. And I said, if I tell you I've got private healthcare cover, does that change things? She went, oh, yes, I'll write you a letter, blah, blah, blah. I get seen by a consultant, and the consultant does what the consultant does. And on that time, I'm not symptomatic. So she takes a stack of bloods and says, right, I've seen what your GP's written. I want to see you back again in 3 months. And I thought, right, okay, this is my only chance, because if it's 4 years on the NHS waiting list, I need to figure out what I need to present to this lady.
Yeah.
So I can be quite diligent with an Excel spreadsheet, and I was tracking every time I had a flare in a joint and how intense it was. And I was on like naproxen and tramadol, and so I would, you know, be like color coding it depending on how severe it was. And there were times that I was doing it and I was writing with my left hand because I couldn't write with my right hand, or voice notes weren't as popular back then, and I was having to voice note because I physically couldn't type. So I presented this Excel spreadsheet to her, and I happened to have a swollen left hand. And I saw the lights go on in her eyes, and I've done quite a time in veterinary, and I know what that look is when they look like that. They've seen something, oh my goodness, this is really interesting. And she said, I think you're a palindromic. And I went, a what? Hadn't heard of this. She went, I think you have palindromic rheumatoid arthritis. I can see this pattern with your blood work, and now I can see the swelling. That's what you are. And I'm like, what does that mean? And it basically means that, you know, in normal rheumatoid arthritis, it stays in one joint. It causes incredible pain and swelling and damage to the joint. The good part about palindromic rheumatoid arthritis is that it doesn't cause permanent damage. It just jumps. So you can go to bed one day and be completely fine, and then the next morning you can't walk, or you can't use your hand, or whatever it happens to be, because it's moved from one place to another. And for somebody who was in so much control of everything, to then effectively be, and I'm going to say, inconvenienced by this condition, right? Because that was how I was looking at it.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
inconvenienced by, right, okay, I can't use my right hand today. What else can I do? Because my degree taught me that you can still train athletes, you just don't use that part of the body whilst they're injured, because you know proper athletes still have to keep a level of fitness regardless of whether they have an injury or not. So
Yes, so there was this, go on.
I was just, okay, I can't use my right hand today. What can I do? How can I do this? Blah, blah, blah. So with that condition, you can't remain private. It goes to shared care because it's
Right.
a lifelong condition. So she said, I'm going to have to pass you back to the NHS here. You're going to go under shared care and blah, blah, blah. This will happen. They'll put you on these drugs. And she actually said to me, you know that thing that Trump was talking about through COVID? And I went, what? She went, that's possibly a treatment. So don't listen to what Trump says. Go and read about the drug. And I'm like, all right. You remember when he was saying you need to drink that stuff to get rid of COVID and it was effectively bleach? Do you remember that?
Right,
That is a possible treatment for this
right.
condition. So I went about my way and all the rest of it. And I then met the NHS consultant, and he is an older guy. And I have recently discovered, one of the nurses has told me that he's the OG of rheumatology consultants,
Right.
right? And he sat me down and he went, you're not a well girl, are you? And I was like, what are you talking about? Fine.
Oh,
I hadn't registered that with these
yes.
things, it was merely a inconvenience, and I was just trying to figure out how I could circumnavigate it. What do I need to do to stop this from happening so I can carry on doing all the things that I need, want? Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
he kind of brought me down to earth, but not in a nasty way or anything. It was actually a quite a caring way that I didn't expect from an
yeah.
NHS consultant. So it was him who then made me go, right, okay. And in the personality type that I am, if anybody close to me had have suggested that, I would have looked at them and gone, you don't have the knowledge to make this decision. Do you know what I mean? Whereas he had the knowledge to put it across to me. So he was a blessing in disguise. I'm still with him today. And he was the one that made me realize, oh, I can't just ignore this. I actually have to deal with what's going on.
Yeah. So at this point, you're juggling multiple conditions. You've said how very, very, can't think what the word is. You logged all of like very diligently logged all of the various things to help with this diagnosis, which was helpful, right? But there was
Totally.
still this underlying thing of I want to be able, it's kind of like, how do I work my way around this? Because I still need to be doing all the things and delivering all the things and being all the things, despite this inconvenience that is now in my life.
Yes.
Um, so how did you get from there to where you are now? And where are you now? Right. So what, because there's been quite a lot of shifts between there and now. So
Oh,
what's the
totally.
next chapter?
So I'm no longer in corporate anymore. Um, it got to the point where I was being driven to do my job because I couldn't drive, or my mum was coming round to blow dry my hair because I couldn't hold a hairdryer, you know, and the crux of it was one day I pulled up outside the childminders and I had to ring her from the car and said, I cannot get out of the car. Can you bring him to the car to me? And that was when I was like, right, this, that was what made me realize I was at my limit,
Mm,
if you get what I mean.
mm,
So I came away from corporate and I carried on with my business. I carried on with the coaching that I was in at the time. And then I then met yourself. I have a health coach, Greg Fearon, and then I have a mindset coach, Robin McLennan. And I've spent the last year and a half working with, a combination of the three, because there are times when you think, is this a mindset thing? And then you're like, I don't know, is it? And you never really can be sure whether it's a mindset thing. But my sleep back then would have been shocking. 6 hours if I'm lucky. Alex, as a child, didn't sleep until he was 7, right? So
Right.
part of the problem was Alex's poor sleeping. But then when he was sleeping, I was still only sleeping for 6 hours. And, physiologically, you need more than 6 hours sleep. When Alex was like 1.5, I would have had 3 coffees before 7 a.m. Do you know what I mean? I would have been driving ridiculous amounts because I worked in an area that was like 4 hours away from where I lived. So I was driving and sleep deprived and all the rest of it. And it just all caught up with me. So now I average 7.5 hours sleep. I have my diet, if I'm honest, hadn't changed because there wasn't a huge amount wrong with my diet.
Yeah.
Very recently, my diet has incredibly changed because we've discovered that I have another, it's not been completely diagnosed yet, but they've discovered more antibodies. So it's likely I have another autoimmune condition. And when you have one, you tend to collect more.
They make friends.
Yeah. So it was actually Greg that picked up on, like, I was doing what I was doing and I wasn't capable of getting Alex to school without crashing. So we looked at blood glucose and I don't have diabetes. I have the opposite of diabetes. So when I eat carbohydrates, my body produces too much insulin and makes me hypoglycemic.
Right.
So we've put in, I would say, radical food changes. Like I only eat like 28% carbs.
Right.
And there has been a huge improvement in that.
Right.
But it's about, like, the NHS just look at the body, but for me, it's about the body and the mind and I guess the soul that's fighting inside it all as such, which is what has got me to here. And it wasn't until the blood glucose issue did I really start resting. I probably was pretending I was resting.
Yes. Yes. I used a phrase recently to someone and I was like, I had to sort of get onto myself. I was like, because I just became a hustler that naps.
Yes, so naps definitely, right? But then I started watching, I don't know, movies that I would have watched years ago, like Tom Hanks, Forrest Gump. I was like, okay, I'm planning this into my day. I'm going to watch these things and do nothing, which
Yeah.
was incredibly triggering because I have to be this productive person who blah blah blah. Yeah, so I was planning to watch movies, which to some people would be like, what? That's absurd. But that was what I did, and it wasn't until I started, properly resting. And a lot of that is what's been modeled to me because both of my parents are still, you know, like my dad's 70, my mum's almost 70, and they're both tearing away doing whatever that they do.
Yeah.
But again, I guess it's just a part conditioning, part trying to make sure I am not keeping up with the Joneses, but showing that I am capable and I can do X, Y, Z, and blah blah blah.
Yeah. So what I've heard so far is lots of, and it sounds amazing, right? But lots of external support that you've had, right? So you've had doctors, you've had consultants, you've got a variety of coaches helping you with a variety of different things, blood tests and all the rest of it. There's also a part of your story that I'd love to explore a bit around where you came in, because I think there was a part, I just love you to talk about it, where you learn to start listening to yourself and pick up on your own cues, the things that were going on for you, away from maybe a diagnosis, an intellectual solution, a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Um, the floor is yours.
Um, so reflecting when we were, I was in a coaching community, and I remember saying on a call, and I can't believe I was so, what's the word? Not stupid, but I remember saying anatomically, I'm aware I have a heart, right? Because
Mm,
part of my degree, I did human body dissections, right? I understand that they're there, but at that time in my life, I knew I had one, but I wasn't very connected to it.
mm,
Despite everything that I did for everybody else, you know, the
yeah,
serving of everyone else, there was never any serving of me. And I just, then the work that I started doing with you, when we were one to one, and you were like, you need to listen, what are you feeling, you know, that type of thing. I
mm,
discovered that when I actually tried, I could do it very easily.
yeah,
Um, and then it's to the point now where, because we have to monitor my blood sugar so closely, I can know when my blood sugar is about to drop below 5. I had somebody around this morning for coffee, and she was talking away, and I said, hang on, I just need to come back, took my blood, and it was 5. And I was like, I knew it was going to be that, because it's when it gets below 5 that it can start dropping quite quickly. But
yeah,
I'm now so sensitive to know what I'm feeling, regardless of what is going on around me, that I can
yeah,
feel it dropping. Um, Also with the flares, I can, I know when it's coming, and now I can try and, what's the word? Like I dial back on whatever I'm doing and I rest. But I think a lot of the flare was about the panic of what was coming. Whereas if
mm,
you recognize it and you go, and this might sound a bit um, naive or stupid, but it's as if your body needs to know that you're not going to push it any further. And then the minute you go, it's okay, I'm not going to do what I used
yeah,
to do. I'm
yeah,
just going to sit here, you know, then it goes. And I haven't had a flare since March. I had a bit of a wobble when I had my flu jab last week, and I thought, oh my goodness,
yeah,
this is a flare. But then reflected, it must have been my immunity reacting to
yeah,
the vaccine.
yeah,
So now it's about, yes, data is important, and yes, consultants and doctors give me the information that I need. But I can actually, I've got more of an awareness of what's going on in my body now, and I can use that information to then discuss with the consultants as such. And then they're like, oh, you know, they think, oh, I hadn't thought of that, or, you know, and then they test me on it, and then, you know, the results come back in the way that I want them to. So I'm not saying that I manipulate the test, but because I know what I'm feeling, I know what data to present to them to get me to what I need to achieve from them, because they are the ones that, I don't know, release the medication or whatever.
yeah.
But my end goal is to come off all of my medication. I'm not just
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. But so it sounds like you learn to really listen into your body and the cues from your body. And actually, some of that has then helped you in the discussions that you've had with other people because you're actually aware of what you're sensing and what you're feeling and what's going on for you. How has, if at all, how has that ability to tune into, I guess, what you're feeling, what you might need, what you're experiencing? Because it's very easy for people to just block all of it out and just go, 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 go. How has tuning into some of that changed, I guess, your approach to your own life, maybe your approach to your work with clients? Like
Um,
what's the shifts that that has brought about?
well, it's a different level of empathy. Um, so before, if somebody didn't feel well, I would have always been empathetic to how they were feeling, doing what I could to support them through it. Now I have ways that I can teach them, like, so particularly with Alex, you know, if he says he's feeling sick, it's not necessarily that he's feeling sick, it's actually that he's feeling worried about something, and we talk it through. And then with my clients, it's more about where they are wasting their energy in their business and doing things because they think they should do them, because somebody told them they should do it, or because it worked 5 years ago. You know, there's a lot of things that we do in business that are actually quite a waste of time, but we do it because we think we're supposed to do it. And then also a lot with clients, it's, sorry, how much sleep did you get last night? You know, and then they'll laugh at me and go, yeah, sorry, you know, they know that they should be sleeping more, and then they're not prioritizing themselves. So I help them catch themselves in those patterns. I don't necessarily go into diet, but it is, you know, do we have a reliance on sugar at the moment, or are we eating
Yeah.
healthily? You know, those types of habits that then spill into caffeine, that spill into self-sacrifice and all those.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you're kind of tuned into this is what I need, this is what I want to do, this is how I manage my energy, and this is what drains my energy, what were, I guess, what shifted? What were the patterns of behavior that changed for you from that place of actually, I'm going to start looking at where is my energy going? How am I using it? What impact is that having on me? Yes, from a various conditions perspective, but also just from a being able to live and enjoy your life.
I think the spoons theory really helped, because I had a conversation with my husband and he went, can you not just buy more spoons? I went, no, it's not about buying more spoons from IKEA. And we had the conversation and I explained. And then he understood. And then he starts talking to me about his spoons. And then I'll say how many spoons I feel I have. And then there's just not this anxiety about how somebody's going to react because you don't have the right amount of spoons for the day.
Yeah.
And if you know you've got something coming up like that you can't avoid, like, I don't know, haven't had it yet, but the Alex's school Christmas, whatever it is they do, and you're
Mm.
going to be in a church hall with loads of people and there's going to be loads of energy. It's about making sure that I haven't got too much planned before that, I'm well slept and all the rest of it, to make sure that if somebody is trying to drain my energy, I've got enough resource there to be able to manage
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you've got extras. So not everyone's going to necessarily know what spoon theory is. And I've got, do you know, I have actually had to get them out this week. They've been away for a
Battery.
while. I've got the batteries. They're here on my desk again. So spoon theory really is kind of like a way of measuring your capacity, or like what you've got available to you, you know, and if the tasks of your day take 8 spoons and you've got 4 spoons, obviously you're in a deficit. And if you can see the task tomorrow has got 10 spoons, it's like, well, okay, well, what do I do within myself so that I have 10 spoons available? Now, because for whatever reason, the batteries in this mouse seem to last about 5 minutes and I'm forever replacing them. Probably because some of these batteries are cheap Amazon Basics, so they don't last very long. I've got these old batteries on my desk that I like to use as an example, you know. So if your day requires 4 batteries and you are spending your day with someone who drains all of those 4 batteries, then there's nothing else left. Or your business takes 4 batteries and you are spending your time using these 4 batteries on stuff that doesn't really take you anywhere, then again, there's no batteries left. So I love it as an approach. You'll laugh at this. I've got a really busy like social few days coming up. We're out for dinner tonight. They've booked the table for 7:30 p.m. I'm like,
Okay.
what is this? What is this? 3 courses and there's loads of us going. I'm like, come on, guys, 6 p.m., 6:30 at a push. Anyway, and then I've got lunch tomorrow and then a lunch the next day. And then when I had this massage yesterday, the woman's invited me to, and it sounds incredible. this All Souls night celebration on the 1st of November, which is Saturday. And it's like cacao and dancing and chanting and connecting with your ancestors. And it's 6:30 till 9:30 p.m. after like out tonight, lunch tomorrow, lunch on Sunday, Saturday night. And I said to Nat, I said, I'd love to go, but I just can't. I'll be too tired. And he's in the fridge. And I didn't see his face, but I can imagine what his face looked like. And he was like, it sounds like your perfect thing, and you'll get to meet people that you'll really like. He was like, I think you just need to resource yourself, to use your words. And I was like,
Um,
fuck you. But yes.
my sister was over, was it last weekend or the weekend before? And anyway, we always all go out to an Indian restaurant, and it's an amazing Indian and it's great food. And I was like, right, what time are we going? And she has a young boy called Jameson, and we always used to have to go around Jameson's feeding, right?
Right.
Which totally suited me because it meant 5 o'clock and that was fine. Do you know what I mean? But now Jameson is older and he doesn't have to go to bed, at the times he used
Yeah.
to go. And they were like, oh, should we do like 6, half 6? And I'm there going, because it's 45 minutes away from where we live and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So I rang up and my dad was with me at the time and he went, no, sorry, love, we don't have space for that time. I can do 5 o'clock. And I went, perfect. Table for 8, 5 o'clock. That's all they had, Dad.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, I don't mind 6, but I think the thing is because we both finish work generally at 5, then we make dinner. That's what we do. And also from like many different standpoints, it's better to eat earlier. But anyway. But tonight I'm like, but the thing is, in the end, it doesn't really matter what time the dinner starts because it's a 5-minute walk away. When it gets to 9 p.m. ish, however much of my food I've eaten, that's the point that I'd be like, night everyone.
Bye. Yes.
And no one's going to be surprised. But also that's also then an energy management thing because I'm around a lot of people that are
But
people.
good sleep routines are based on similar sleeping patterns. So
Yeah.
when, like, I don't have to sociably be around lots of people all the time, thankfully, but there are times in the year, like Christmas, when
Mm,
you're expected to do these things. But yeah, it's more important to me to sleep well than be sociable.
correct. And also everyone knows. When I had my 40th party this year, I did a little speech on the balcony and it was recorded. Like literally just like thank you everyone for coming, the food's in the kitchen kind of thing. But someone recorded it and on the recording you can hear someone's like, what's she doing up there? And someone else was like, she's probably going to
So you didn't write, party's over, time to leave, bye
I
bye.
did I did kick them all out at 11:15. I was like, you don't have to go to bed. I was like, no, I was like, you don't have to leave. And I meant it. They could have stayed. I was like, you don't have to leave. I will be going to bed now. But you could see like the relief on most of their faces of like, oh, I actually like this isn't too late. Well, it is too late, but for them it wasn't too late. They're like, oh, I can just stay up. Um, but yeah, but there is lots of just sort of things about listening and paying attention. Um, so you had your intellectual solutions, great, but then you also learn to listen to your body, listen to those cues, think about some other stuff as well. As we're wrapping up, another curious question. How do you feel about your heart now?
Um, there's still a way to go, but I
Yeah.
am much more connected to it than I was. Um, but there's still a way to go with everything. I think now I'm acting more with kindness, but kindness with myself and setting boundaries with others. So it may not be perceived that I am being as kind as I was. Do you know what I mean? But that's
Yeah.
about protecting
You've been
my
kind to yourself though.
yeah. And you know, it is what it is. I have to look after me to then be able to deliver X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And
But I think even that in and of itself is massive, right? Because so often people are so worried. What are people going to think of me if I do put myself first? If I do listen to my own needs? If it. because we're so conditioned, often from a very young age, to abandon our needs or not even consider our needs because someone else needs looking after or someone else needs managing or our needs just don't matter. So what's the point in having any? What's the point in having a need if your needs aren't going to get met? You might as well just not have any.
I think it's easier for those that are closest to me. They're just seeing me be the perhaps the moody teenager again, if you get what I mean. That's maybe the perception that they're having of me. You know, I'm obviously communicating it in a better way, but I'm still not allowing things to happen that when I was a child or a teenager, I had no power over.
Yeah.
So I think there's always been she's just a bit like that, you know. But now I'm not feeling guilty about it.
Yeah. And you haven't had a flare since March, and it's the 30th of October, so it's a win.
I know.
It's a win. So you now combine your business coaching with the kind of well-being and energy management piece. You have a program called Success Beyond Strategy.
Yes.
Do you want to just say a little bit more about that? Where can people find you if they want to come and check you out?
So Success Beyond Strategy is called that because I've been incredibly strategic all my life, and like my son plays chess. It's a game of strategy. I think it's just genetic within us. But it got me a certain level of success, but it didn't get me to the success I wanted, you know, with feeling comfortable. I was always I was exhausted. I was always running on fumes. I was always people pleasing. And this is about having a business. And it's not about there being something wrong with your business. It's always just little tweaks that are made to how the systems are run, so that you're not over giving and not people pleasing to clients, perhaps. You know, people get caught in that trap of, oh, I don't want to do that because I might lose that client and things like that.
I've had to work through some of those patterns this year.
Some of the stuff that comes up with my current clients is they don't realize how focused on external validation they are, and that's a big piece that I've previously worked through. So often the stuff that I've been through is what comes through in my clients.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. So I exist on Facebook because, quite openly and honestly, I don't have the energy to be on another platform, right?
Right.
I keep my screens in one place. I have a website, and all the information is on my website about my programs. And there is an energy audit that you can do free. So it allows you to look at how you're currently applying yourself within your business and gives you a few areas that you could work to improve on, depending on how you answer the quiz. And you can take it from there. If you find it useful, let me know, and I'm happy to have a conversation.
Amazing. So what we'll make sure we do in the show notes is we'll have a link to your Facebook, which is just Kellie Tannahill. I still got why Kellie Tannahill. It's like I'm getting tongue-tied. I got the Kelly out then though, and then it went wrong.
You see, when you're trying to order a taxi or a Chinese, you just tell them it's Kelly because they go, what?
Website is
coachingwithkellytannahill.com.
great. I'm not even gonna go there. Oh, it's worse when I had Greg on. I'm trying to say his surname.
Yeah, well, you attempted to practice with him, didn't you?
Yeah. And we'll also put in the show notes separately, if it's available separately, the link to the energy audit if people want to grab that. Yep. So you can get all of that in there. Again, we're on 3 for 3 now of me getting right to the end and not asking people who are in Time Alchemy what they think about Time Alchemy. But if people are still listening, you are in the Time Alchemy membership. How do you find it? What would you say about it? Mitch was interesting. He was like, I love being in a spiritual space. And I was like, you think it's really spiritual? And he was like, yeah. But he's not been in the portal. He's only come to the calls.
Oh, right, okay.
I was like, you need to go in the portal because the portal's not particularly of that way. But anyway, but what's your view on the time alchemy?
So I've been in time alchemy when it's been through its upgrades.
Yeah,
Um, and previously it was about how you manage your time and what you need to work on to get you through X, Y, or Z, on, you know, if you need to have a difficult conversation. And then it's morphed into how you are looking after yourself to then manage what you're working in, whether you're in corporate, because there are people that are in corporate and there are business owners in there. And
yeah.
now the people that are in it are incredibly talented individuals. And there's times I look in there and go, who are these people and how am I in the same room as them? You know, and they all
Because you belong there.
they all offer something completely different. So yes, it's a very, should we say, dynamic place to be, because it doesn't stay the same, does it, Louise?
I know it's really inconvenient for me. It's like every time I shift, it shifts. But I do enjoy, I don't know if you've seen, I do enjoy the like bringing more of the seasonal alchemy stuff into there. I haven't exactly figured out how I'm going to do that yet, but we're going to have like um sessions around the solstices and the equinoxes.
Oh,
Okay, it is a
cool.
little bit spiritual. We're talking about the dream next month or this month when this comes out. Um, but yeah, really, it is about how you make time work in the way that works for you. But I like kind of working with the seasons and the energy. I've just had a conversation with a woman. I'm doing a retreat in a mini retreat in London next in a couple of weeks' time,
I saw that.
and basically she enjoys everything that I'm doing, but is terrified of witches. I like the woman that owns the venue, not the woman I'm doing it with. The woman I'm doing it with thinks it's brilliant. And so we've had a back and forth today about like actually what is it to be a witch and like working with the seeds. I said to her, I said, my sense is that you're exactly like my husband. I said, you actually like everything that I'm doing. I said, you agree with everything that I'm doing. And you're very happy for me to do everything that I'm doing within your venue. I said, you just don't like the word witch because of what you associate with it.
And,
And the response back was basically like, yeah, probably.
and has she not realised she was burned at the stake as a witch previously yet?
Well, I'm not sure if she's ready for that conversation of why she carries the witch wound and why it's terrifying for her. I don't know her, but I might mention it. I might drop it in when I'm there in a couple of weeks.
No. Well, I wish you all the best with it.
Thank you. Thank you. So show notes, if you would like to go and check out Kellie, do. I enjoy your posts. Your social media posts are good. They always give me something to think about. If you want to work with Kellie, go and say hello to her, do the energy audit. If you want to join us in Time Alchemy, it's fun.
There's
And
no
actually, when's this?
spreadsheet. Louise doesn't do spreadsheets.
Oh, no spreadsheets. No spreadsheets. But if you like a spreadsheet, Kellie can give you plenty to play around with. Sometimes I've tracked things in the past. It's not even like it's an anti-corporate thing. Because I didn't really use, like Nat loves a spreadsheet. I didn't really use spreadsheets in law. Um, yeah, yeah. But you also aren't forced to just follow where life is leading you. I tell you what I do actually. I don't do spreadsheets, but I will out myself now. I do live my life via reminders on my phone. That's how I
Totally.
stay organized. I'm like, because it means I don't have to have it in my head. It's just in my phone. It pops up. Sometimes when the time pops up, I'm like, not doing that today, so I'll move it.
We have the power to choose.
We have the power to choose, but yeah, not big on a spreadsheet. It was funny. We had the first Wealthy Witches call yesterday, and they get a video to watch and they get prompts to do, and then we have a call to talk about it. One of the ladies had been talking about journaling on the questions, and then another lady was like, "Oh, maybe I feel like I didn't do it properly because I just thought about the questions. I didn't journal about them." And I was like, "Hey, some of us are here to journal, and some of us are here to go on a walk in nature and think about stuff." I was like, because I don't journal. I was like, you do what you want to do. So, yes, yes. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Anything that you would like to share that you haven't said already that you think is good, but I didn't ask you about or relevant?
I probably, it's probably about control, and the less you try and control, the more things work how you actually want them to work. And if you're controlling, you're forcing, and that didn't work out for me. So I've really reeled back everything that I was doing, and I'm still here. Nothing's fallen down.
Yes, okay, that's an excellent point, but we just might need to like just pause there for a moment because there are a lot of people that I work with, most of them, who would self-identify as control freaks. And that idea of, so what you say to them, like you talk about intellectualizing things, that what you've just said to them will make intellectual sense to them. But the actual peeling back, and doing the less control, it feels very, very uncomfortable. So
Totally.
have you got a like, have you got like, how do you get to that place, or how did you get to that place? Because it doesn't ever become comfortable. It's not like you get to this like nirvana where it's like, this is dead easy now, I don't have to control anything anymore. You just kind of have to get to a place where you're willing to do it. But what did that look like for you?
I guess, I mean, it is just okay, this is uncomfortable. If I'm comfortable, then I'm not stretching myself. So therefore, everything stays the same. And when I did my coaching qualification, there was this big focus on what is the opposite of what you would do. So a lot of the time, I bring myself back to what is the opposite of former Kellie, and then former Kellie would do this. So then I do the opposite, and I sit in it. And if you sit in it, it doesn't last as long as you think it's going to last.
Because that's the thing, isn't it, right? If you're terrified of losing control, so you want to be in control, the reason you want to be in control is because there is a discomfort in the not being in control. And you can't be like, it feels too much to be in that discomfort. But that is the key. Because when you actually do sit in the discomfort, I mean, I'm not saying it's like marshmallows, but it's like, oh, actually, this wasn't so bad. And like you said just then, and I'm still here. So maybe I could do it again.
Yeah, so it's don't fear the feeling. I think everybody fears the feeling of it,
Yeah.
but it is in the feeling that the actual release comes. That when you actually, like I was, when they say in yoga, see that thought, let it float on by. I was like, what? No, what are you talking about? But for me, it's okay. Just keep attached to the feeling, allow it to go through me. It won't be here forever. It will go,
Yeah.
and then it's like a weight has dropped from your shoulders as
Yeah.
such, and you go about your day, and then something else will come up, and you're like, right, okay, this is the next version of that I need to work through, type thing.
Yeah. The woman that once said she only anatomically knew she had a heart. Look at you go.
I know how ridiculous. I mean, I'm not shaming myself, and I think I am shaming myself, but I can't believe those words came out of my mouth.
At least you had the awareness. I was all, I'm so connected to myself. I'm an open book. And then I start doing the nervous system work. And she's like, the basicest thing of like, just tap the back of your hand until you can feel your hand. This is my hand, it is part of my body. I was honestly, I'd have had to take a hammer to my hand. I was so disconnected from myself. And I couldn't even do that. Like, that was too much. It was too intense. It was like, oh, and she was like, okay, just try doing that in nature. Or just go in the shower and just feel the shower running down the back of your neck. So it is amazing how much we can shift and move and change when we decide to shift and move and change.
Oh yeah, and it has to come from us. And sadly, anybody that I know that's made dramatic shifts has come from a certain level of pain. And my work is to try and prevent people from getting to where I've got to.
Yes.
And that's what it's really about. I had this head that wanted to do everything, and the body that was like, not today, Kellie, not today. So that's what my work is about, trying to not let people get to the position that I got.
Yes. Well, Godspeed.
Thanks very much.
Right. So that is the end of our episode today. Tune back in a couple of weeks. I think we're gonna have Max Wilson on, who is a ex-barrister. So you can see what he has to say then. I've got no idea yet. We haven't recorded the episode. Kellie, thank you so much for coming on and being an excellent guest. And I will catch you all soon. Bye.
Thank you.